Right, I'm going to be previewing 6 matches for Saturday the 13th of December, and I'm going to be sharing my bets with you. Now this is for educational purposes, so do with them whatever you please. You should note I haven't used any clubs that were involved in this week's European competition. For me that's extra risk, and for the sake of this video I would rather stay away from them. I just also want you to note I do use the term plus 0.5, which is a double chance, and it's also European handicap plus 1. If you just look at this image, you will see that you get much better odds if you actually bet on the actual plus 0.5. Now this is an idiosyncrasy with the bookmakers. They do rip off you double chance bettors, so it is best to bet on the Asian handicap if that's possible. Now I added these to a video that I did yesterday on Thursday, so if you want to check that out you should do, because it will teach you how to bet properly. If you're not getting the odds, then I'm afraid you are shooting yourself in the foot and you'll never win. But without further ado, let's crack on with today's. If we start off in the Dutch Eredivisie League on the match between Telstar and NEC Nijmegen. That is the 18th, the bottom team, against the 3rd. Now after being promoted last season, Telstar have just 11 points from 15 games to date. It looks like they're probably going to be heading back down to the second league after the end of this season. The thing is with this club, they have been getting some decent draws, and they did beat PSV 0-2 away, which must have been one of the biggest shocks ever in Dutch football. But they don't have any strength in depth. Anthony Carrera, the manager, is doing the best job he can with the group of players, but they didn't invest during the summer, and unfortunately that's just not good enough for competing in this league. Now NEC are particular good travellers. They're playing their best football of the season under the guidance of Dick Schroeder. They've been benefiting from a near to fully fit squad. You know, he's not going to be complaining about the players he's got available for this game, and we do think this high energy teams are going to have no problem in winning this match, and odds of 1.97, that is decent. In France La Ligue, we're going to be betting on the match between Rennes and Brest. That's the 6th against the 10th. Just 5 points separate the two clubs as they enter this round. Now, if we start off with Rennes, they won 4 games going into last week's match against PSG, which unfortunately they lost at 5-0. They was on the back of a big thumping that day. 2 of the late goals came after a red card, to be fair to them, and the scoreline was, definitely exaggerated. But all in all, when Rennes get playing at home, it's a different story. Now, they will be missing the suspended player in Jeremy Jacquet. Now, we don't think that's going to affect them against Brest, who do come into this, in all fairness, on the back of 3 straight wins. But we've got to say, Brest, they do have a limited squad. They actually cashed in during the summer 20 million non-player transactions. So that is making the coach, Eric Roy's life a lot more difficult. And for this match, he's going to be missing the suspended Ludovic Ajorque. And also, if you're considering that they're still missing their first choice goalkeeper, we can see this team's going to be susceptible. Because at the end of the day, if you look at the actual players on the field, they're not amounting to a great deal. Even though they've won the last 3 games, we don't see them getting any change out of Rennes. And Rennes odds 1.89, excellent odds. In Italy Serie A, we're going to be betting on the match between 16th place Torino and 9th place Cremonese. Now Torino, they used to be known as home specialists. That's where they always gathered most of their points. Now this season they're just 2-2-3, and they did lose their last 2 home matches. Now Marco Baroni's team haven't won in the last 5. They're actually just 4 points clear of the relegation zone, and we are seeing big problems. Even though they've got a big crowd at home, we will be pushing them on. Il Granata, they're just not playing at the level you'd expect them to. What can we say about Cremonese? They were newly promoted this season, having a fantastic run. They actually come into this winning back-to-back. Jamie Vardy's playing for them, 38 years old, 26 times cap for England. He actually scored a brace a couple of games back when they won. They're good travellers. They've got a great counter-attack. They play very wide, and playing a team against a forceful team like Torino should actually suit them. Of course, you don't want to be conceding the first goal. That's probably the key to them getting something out of this game. Now, what we do like about Cremonese is that they're just missing 3 of their 30 players, so close to fully fit squad, and these odds in the double chance market, the plus 0.5, 1.89, we think that's absolutely fantastic odds. Guys, you've got to go and check out bookiesbonuses.com. They've put together a full, super easy to use list of every UK licensed betting site out there. And here's the cool part. If you sign up for the newsletter on that page, they'll let you know the second a brand new bookie gets added. It's completely free, it's updated all the time, and it's honestly the quickest way to stay ahead with what's available in the UK. Links in the description and pinned in the comments. Go take a look. In the English Premier League, the only game that interests us on Saturday is between Burnley and Fulham. Now, Burnley, the second bottom of the league for a reason. They've just lost 6 straight matches. In the last round, they were beaten by Newcastle 2-1. But to be fair, they did play a good game, considering that they had a player sent off early in that match. And they did fight back. So they did make some kind of effort under Scott Parker, who is, I believe, a very good coach. Now, the thing about Burnley is when they play at home, their matches tend to be very tight. You know, they're usually 1 or 2-0. In fact, over the 7 games that they've played here, there's only been 12 goals scored in those matches. And here's the thing, none of those went over 2.5. So just bear that in mind as we go through Fulham. Now, Fulham coming to this on the back of 2 straight defeats. Marco Silva's men, they didn't really get going against Crystal Palace, and they did deserve that defeat in last week's London derby. And we've got to say, they lack something in the final third, and that's why Silva suggested that they do need a couple of strikers during this up-and-coming transfer window. Also, it's worth noting that they just won 1-5 on the road, so there would be some kind of reason to take them on here with Burnley. But coming back to that, you know, we do think this is going to be a very tight match. We think it's going to be up and down the field. You know, there's not going to be many chances, and that's why we can see that under 2.5 goals as a standout bet. 1.87, that's our bet, under 2.5 goals. If we go to our favourite league, that's the Belgian Jupiler, or should I say the favourite, because that's where we actually been profiting the most. Now, we're going to be betting on the match between Anderlecht and St Truiden. So it's the 4th against, surprisingly, the 2nd team. Now, Anderlecht, you know, they used to be one of the big clubs in Belgium, but they haven't won the championship for the past 8 years. And we have to say that the purple and white have been struggling a little bit this season, and after 4 straight wins, they got absolutely stuffed in the last round by Westerlo. Now, we've got to say that day, probably the scoreline was a little bit heavy, the 4-0, but defending was poor and they were making plenty of mistakes. The visitors have been in fantastic form, beat Club Brugge in the last round, which was absolutely a great result. The Canaries playing better away than ever before, even though, you know, they do benefit from that artificial surface when they're playing at home. They have taken points away, and we just see that this league has changed this season. Only 42% matches are ending in home wins, and that's why we can see here a great bet, double chance, St Truiden plus 0.5, odds 1.90, no messing around. And our final pick is going to be on the match also in Belgium, and that's between CERCLEE Brugge and MECHELEN. Now, CERCLEE Brugge have been struggling this season. They're just 15th in the table with 13 points from 17 games. Well, it's not a desperate situation at the moment. You know, they do have another 13 games to go. They've got to get their act together. Now, it's nothing new for this Monaco associated club to actually bring in new players when the winter transfer season comes. They've often been in this situation where they're actually struggling near the bottom, and then from January onwards, you know, they start creeping up the table. So they're still in there pitching, but the fact is they haven't won any of the last 12 league games, and they have really been showing signs of inexperience. And there's the thing, they're just an average of 22.8 years old, and the players on the field are not any older. So, you know, a relatively inexperienced squad, lost 4 from the last 5, and, you know, there's just no reason to think that they're going to be pushing over a club like MECHELEN. As a matter of fact, the Kakas have 27 points on the board, which is more than double of that of their opponent. The Frederick van der Beest, they're playing the best football away for a long time. They actually won 3 of the last 4 away matches, including in Genk, you know, which is obviously a team which is better than CERCLEE on paper. And the thing about the visitors is they do play a very compact game. They're going to make it very difficult for CERCLEE, and that could get them very frustrated. So obviously, you know, getting in that first goal is important, but we think this is going to be a sort of 1-0 match, or maybe even a 0-0, and that's why we're going to be betting MECHELEN plus 0.5. That's a double chance again, odds of 2.07. 11. So that's your lot. We hope you got something out of this video, and I highly encourage you to get over and start studying some of our actual tutorials. You know, our last video there, it shows you 12 mistakes that the everyday punter makes where they think they're better than the system and they are not. But you know, it's all about learning. If you do your job right, if you put in the effort, you make sure you're getting the best odds, you cut out the crap and you start playing the game right, then you too can profit from betting. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you do things right, this is a good game to be in. So that's it for now. We'll see you in the next one soon. Take care.